we're sort of talking around this American Eagle ad right now, and maybe we should just talk about it. So, were you surprised by the reaction?
Y'all, after this interview I just watched, I am convinced that Sydney Sweeney is a MAGA Republican, and no one can convince me otherwise.
I did a jean ad. I mean, the reaction definitely was a surprise, but
I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans, and I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn, or that they make your butt look amazing. Why would I need to do that? But if you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney, Hasbro King.
You see what I did there, right?
Quick, someone explain to me how a woman with lip filler is making an ad about having really great jeans. So your jeans are blue, but you tried to make those lips black.
it was, I love jeans. All I wear are jeans. I'm literally in jeans and a t-shirt like every day of my life.
Jeans are uncontroversial. Jeans are awesome.
Yeah, I like your jeans.
You look great in your jeans.
Interviews have genuinely lost their meaning. Because what do you mean that the whole time the interviewer is asking Sydney Sweeney about the American Eagle campaign and her thoughts on the whole genetic superiority thing, she's just giggling and laughing and blushing like this is a first date or something.
The president tweeted about the jeans ad, or Truth Socialed about the jeans ad, and that just seems to me like a very crazy moment for anyone, and I wondered what that was like.
It was surreal.
It was surreal.
I have a dream.
Hi Aryans, hi Aryans.
I have a dream.
Throw some I have a dreams at them. I have a dream MLK is like raid spray to an Aryan.
I have a dream.
They gon' run when they hear it. But we're back with another episode of Woke Theory. You know, it's nice to see everyone in the chat again. Remember though that my favorite thing to do is rage bait. So if you're an Aryan with disagreements, just know we like to joke a little bit, but we like to have convos, because at the end of the day, MLK, he had a dream, and apparently there was some white people. So okay, I'm okay with that if MLK okay with that. You know, a dab of mayo is okay on a sandwich, I guess. But today we're going through a more interesting topic, you could say. We're getting the stove hot again. You know, back in the Taylor Swift video, we talked about, albeit very jokingly, about the infantilizing nature of mayo matriarchy, I guess, and white feminism. Y'all remember that? You know, Sydney Sweeney, Taylor Swift, and Sabrina Carpenter, maybe the topical conversations of relevance from a day-to-day level, but they're a symptom of an ill social environment. That's what I want to push throughout this video, about how depictions of caricature form in media and what narratives they draw from, right? Because artists aren't separate from art movements, artists aren't separate from social connotation. Like artists are a part of this all, you know what I'm saying? They're byproducts of popular ideals we sort of birthed from preconceived beliefs of femininity specifically, right? If your nose is running, the problem really isn't your nose running. You probably got a cold, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people begin and end with the jeans ad, writing her off as like unknowing. And I get it, you know? I too am head ass to an outrageous degree. Like, my Sudanese ass was dancing to A-Rap Money when Mamdani won. You know, I'm no better than a man from Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Even though democratic socialism won't save us. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that, okay. Just to say for my Zoran video, at the end of the day, democratic socialism won't save us, because he's going to still tax that wealthy that exist in this framework of capitalism. You know what I'm saying? And that framework of capitalism still goes on to oppress people in Palestine, oppress people in Sudan, da-da-da. That's what I mean by that. You're not getting another Mamdani video. Sorry. I can't do that again. I can't live out like that again. But anyways, see, I don't hate Sydney Sweeney. She's just the launching point of a broader conversation to me, right? The opportunities she receives are given by a cultural reassurance to a particular caricature of femininity that she represents, that she embodies, that she steps with. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've long known since she was mega. Like you saw the photos with her and her family members. You know what I'm saying? So how does that relate to today's stream? Well, today I more so want to talk about the canvas of acceptable narratives being tolerated at large. You know what I'm saying? Relationally, I'm going to make my argument by contrasting the work of Black artists compared to those of white in a systemic inference. And most relevant to Sydney Sweeney, I'd say, is Zendaya. You know, they're both models, they both act, and they both exist as public figures, even appearing in the same hit show Euphoria, you know? By the way, I'm choosing to believe Sydney is still role-playing Cassie for my sanity, okay? Because I low-key liked that show. It's like a guilty pleasure. Moved here from Twitch. Hey, it's nice to see you on the YouTube side of things. Choco Mello said, it's just that she's a grown adult. If anything, it's anti-feminist to insist she's actually head empty or oblivious. Sydney is a very smart woman. You don't get to where she is by being actually dumb, right? And that's what I don't get too. Like, all these Hollywood actors have all these means of like PR training. You know what I'm saying? They have agents. They have whole teams behind them. How are you still slipping up like this on ads? How are you still causing public discourse like this? This is very weird to me, right? I think she does absolutely benefit from that idea, but I think she's doing it on purpose because the media loves a dumb blonde, right? The Paris Hilton archetype, right? But why does this matter? Let's talk about representation in media today, because that's the crux of my argument. Chat, what is the best cultural depiction of identity you've seen, right? That's where we're gonna start. What is the best cultural depiction of identity that you've seen from a personal standpoint, right? Let's start with that in order to brew the foundations of our argument. And as always, your boy is going first, you know, but feel free to spam me with answers. I love reading, right? Anyways, as a kid, I really liked Dragon Ball Z. And if you're a real one, you know who I'm going to answer with already, right? I don't know when I really picked it up. It's just one of those manga I always remember being around in my library. For reference, I didn't really have a phone until I hit 7th grade. So my idea of fun was like checking out a game at a library, playing basketball with my cousins, or reading manga. And my favorite character was a man named Piccolo, right? He just got shit done. Like in the first arc of Dragon Ball Z, there's a time skip after the kid version of Dragon Ball. And Goku is an adult with a child now, right? And his brother, who he didn't know about, has been enacting intergalactic colonization on planets, right? And he comes to Earth and he tries to kill Goku. And he would have been successful if Piccolo didn't fire a special beam cannon right through him, right? All the while aura farming in a weighted suit, by the way. Like, y'all actually got to see this aura farm, right? Like, look at this. Look at this aura farm. Like, there's been whole videos about this aura farm. You know what I'm saying? But this guy isn't exactly black, as you could see. This guy is green. This is a green man. Although he was the best depiction of cultural relation to me. Why? Why is a green man the best cultural depiction of relation to me? A black Sudanese guy. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's the same reason why anyone can wear the mask in Spider-Man. You know, there's an underlying narrative in media based on perceptual adherence met with Hollywood, right? As a society, we interpret art largely based on our gaze. This is influenced by our own material conditions, identity, and politics, right? In animation, there's more leeway for the viewer to find a reflection of self on screen. I also felt the same way about like Spider-Man as a kid in the Xbox game. Even though the Spider-Verse and most of Miles Morales' hype was felt a decade later in theaters and with the new PS5 game, right? You don't really see Peter Parker though when you play that X-Men game, right? A famous Stan Lee quote about Spider-Man is, "What I like about the costume is that anyone reading Spider-Man in any part of the world can imagine that they themselves are under the costume, and that's a good thing," right? However, leave some comments. I'm ranting again. Turb is doing the rant. All right, audience, when did you first feel a relational pull to a character? Someone said me headcanoning Luffy as an Algerian kid. Oh my god. For the longest, my headcanon of Luffy was literally black. I'm so sorry. I thought Luffy was black. I thought that was just a light-skinned black man. You know what I'm saying? Just because of how head-ass he was. Purely. Me at 5 years old too, I was running that goodness like that with all my might too for a little Capri Sun. Oh my god. Oh my god. Anyways. To show that this purely isn't a me thing, I also found a good TikTok around this phenomenon, this conversation.
Black man confirmed, y'all. There's been a theory in the community for the longest time, even people that don't watch Dragon Ball. But this last chapter, he's a black man. We got all the evidence in the world that Piccolo is a black man. But my boy is messed in with a sister. He with a sister right now. She got a whole afro. What are we doing here? Piccolo is a black man.
Piccolo had a dream.
I have a dream.
Piccolo had a dream. And the dream had cocoa butter in it.
He's a black man, confirmed. Honestly, I'm gonna chalk this up to Toriyama and everybody involved being in tune with the Dragon Ball audience. They've always been in tune with the Dragon Ball audience, but to give Piccolo a black woman, you definitely seen.
Piccolo had a dream. Piccolo had a dream. Someone said Spock as a Jewish person. He's very Jewish coded, but like half alien. Superman 2 was supposed to be Jewish coded, right? Someone said, I don't know why, but I projected heavy on Generator Rex. No, that was a sick show though. Ben 10 too, even though that kid was white, that was one of my favorite characters. Not one of my favorite cultural depictions, but still one of my favorite characters. And that's the wonder of media. Right. The way we can project and I guess instill narratives in day-to-day commonality. And I got a good article on that too called He's One of Ours, Blackness in Animation, right? The writer goes, his blackness always felt right to me. While the supporting character is green because of his alien Namekian heritage, his skin color is a standout visual trait among the series' principal cast, who mostly have light or white skin. While the series itself never confirms my reading of Piccolo, searching online quickly confirms that belief the same. Game developer and journalist Isaiah Colbert discusses the desire to assign blackness. My ability to identify black-coded characters like Piccolo became second nature as I matured in a world infused with cartoons and anime, he writes. Black-coded characters are not technically black, typically because the race system we constructed is not mirrored in the worlds they exist in. They're instead coded as black in how their stories or representations often mirror the black experience in America. And this is what I kind of want to allude to when we get into the topical conversations of media depictions and how structured narratives kind of set the tone for a lot of media figures and even caricatures in our cartoons. You know what I'm saying? Someone said Katara from Avatar. I think she's a really good representation for a young woman, right? A really good example of this spectacle to audience relation is someone like Drewski, and how he's able to mimic frameworks of social relations. Did y'all see that whiteface thing he did? Like when he mocked all the NASCAR dudes and everything, and he was running around kind of satirizing that. Drewski is really good at picking apart those stereotypes and exposing them for how stupid they may seem. But although we think these stereotypes be stupid, they still exist, and they still form a concrete and real harm that subjugate us in an everyday to-day life. Like look at Kristi Noem and how the CIA has used AI black people. You know what I'm saying? Someone said also Spock is very autistic coded, LMAO. Lex Luthor always being in the shadows was extremely misleading, right? So we also have to note that history has a different connotation with the aspect of black identity, right? See, the art we consume also reasserts racial relations in their own right, as we saw with Piccolo. I want to mirror how black people are depicted in modern forms of art. You know what I'm saying? Be it in the gifs you use, be it in the digital culture, the digital age. The way we use black people more so is for comedic effect, more often than not black women in the form of caricature. You know what I'm saying? But this also takes a more sinister form with the rise of AI. But I want to contrast it to the historical contraction of identity to certain monoliths that have always existed in forms of media, whether it's newspapers, television, etc., in order to get my points across, right? All this to say racial degradation happens in media for a purpose, right? We seek relational bastions of caricatures outside of stereotypical norms for a purpose, right? Someone said they really like Superman because they remind them, because Superman was meant to be a Moses figure and his creators were Jewish. Yeah, someone said Katara from Avatar because I think she's a really good representation of young woman. Like Piccolo because he was a really good representation of black caricature for me. But in the modern day, maybe for a child, that would look like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that animated series that was inspired by the Spider-Verse. You know what I'm saying? Even though these turtles are green, it might be a good representation of black culture because of the way they use New York black slang, AAVE, the way they interact with each other, very black and childlike. But that same degree of comfort isn't met with identity because of constriction of it, because that stereotypical media depiction exists, right? All this to say again, racial degradation happens in media for a purpose. Art is the soft power that is affected by the soil of commonality that it grows from, right? Did y'all know the first form of public media, be it the American press, started with reaffirming racial segregation through the comic strips of like the 1890s? You know what I'm saying? And let me pull up this article. But before I pull up this article, think about it in the same way we all relationally use memes of speed, right? Speed is used for a certain reason. That little clip where he's like trying not to laugh and he's like, right? We all relate that aspect of, or we all relate some sort of reflection of caricature to this gift, to this gif, you know what I'm saying? Or to the clips that you see of him. But yeah, let me slide to the article. Someone said Magneto was made as a metaphor for the Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin. Whoa, I did not know that. I did not know that. I did not know how deep the X-Men were actually. But here, it says from undercork to overcoming black images in the comics. The introduction of comic strips in the 1890s American press corresponds with the beginning of a renewed racial segregation in the United States. While Southern laws were used to oppress American citizens of African descent, the mainstream white press served up accounts of blacks in newspaper articles which supported such sanctions. In the comment sections, black people were the principal comic figures, having surpassed the Irish at the turn of the century as the butt of America's jokes, taking images from blackface minstrelsy, which was America's first national popular entertainment form and a mainstay of American stage until the 1940s. Many of the images of blacks in the first half century of comics were not blacks at all. Instead, they were caricatures derived from popular stage routines of white males, gross parodies of black life, right? And then they highlight a bunch here, right? Predictably, black community activists were outraged with the typical portrayal of blacks as ebony human clones. Walter White and W. Du Bois of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and Marcus Garvey fought not only against the indiscriminate lynchings of black people, but also against the comics' defamation of black people, right? Because media and aspects of relation helps, right? The reason why Jim Crow was so powerful was also in part because there was such a strong narrative behind white identity and why black and white people should be separated through these depictions of black identity. You know what I'm saying? When I said earlier that art arises from the soil of commonality, the reason why these depicted images, right, were so harmful was because there was an instated reality of Jim Crow going on, right? So when you relate this to the modern day, and we're talking about the rise of the MAGA movement and the narrative of white identity, people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the right are trying to push with replacement theory and everything. You have to think about how Sydney Sweeney is being used to reaffirm a lot of ideals, right? But this isn't to say all depictions of black identity in media is inherently bad, right? I'm just saying media has played a critical role in sparking a depiction of black identity that is anything but, you know what I'm saying? And of course the media has played a good hand in steering the public towards things like racial justice in recent years. You know what I'm saying? With things like the Palestine protests. It's also a source of rampant misinformation and racial bias, you have to understand, right? And in the modern day, depictions of black identity have shaped language, culture, and conformity, right? Black AAVE runs the damn algorithm, right? The 6-7, that was a damn TikTok song. The reason why all those kids are doing it is because a black person did it, right? All the dances on TikTok you see, all the modern connotations you see. And speaking of modern connotations, one way this has depicted, I guess, a stereotype or helped push a narrative of black identity is through the YN stereotype, right? See, these caricatures in everyday media, whether they were newspapers or on the screen, become a canvas of ideation, right? In the Jim Crow era, minstrelsy was useful because it kept a white narrative of settler colonialism, right? No longer were Black people tenants of lands, skilled carpenters, because they were the ones that had to forcibly build things. They were the ones that had to forcibly farm, right? Instead, the relation can be skewed in the media. Now Black people can be reduced to animalistic savages that eat watermelon messily, right? They're not good. They're not the once proud watermelon farmers they were. Now this aspect of identity is being used against them, right? This same aspect of personification still even carries on to the modern day. Like, I know this is a lot, but remember that Ebola song or that Celebrate Our Differences song, right? Setting a verifiable means of white identity permeates othering, right? Right. And even in the sense of YN culture, Black people still go, oh, sorry, not YN culture, even with the aspect of YN and the way it's used, you could say that Black people are still undergoing a certain adultification, which has remained on the spectacle of the public since the civil rights era, right? But what is adultification? What is adultification, chat? What is adultification? Does anyone know? Someone said hi, finally caught alive. Yay, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Dre. Nice to see you. Nice to see you out. And Ugandan Knuckles too. Yup. I'm telling you, being a high schooler in 2015, 2016, or even being in junior high during the alt-right pipeline when it was peaking with Ben Shapiro and iDubbbz and all the YouTube commentators, that was hell. Like, that was hell. Like, there was nobody doing none. Like, shout out to the YouTubers who were doing things back then, because wow, it was a cesspool for media as a whole. Someone said, is adultification the opposite of infantilization? Yep, you're on the right track. You're on the right track. I'm gonna pull up my sources because you always know I love to quote my sources. Choco Melon said, when a child is forced to act like an adult or seen as an adult. Yup, you nailed it on its head. On here, there's a really good article on it called Adultification, Anger Bias, and Adults' Different Perceptions of Black and White Children, right? Adultification, perceiving a child as older and more mature, and anger bias, perceiving anger where it does not exist, are two phenomena disproportionately imposed on Black children compared to white children. The current study assessed whether perceiving a Black child as older increases the odds of mistakenly perceiving anger. Participating were 152 parents who viewed video representations of 40 children in an emotion understanding program. Black children were not seen as older than white children, but they did have a 1.27 higher odds of being produced as right. Multiple studies suggest that Black children are seen more adult-like than white children. Phenomenon was right. And y'all could read the rest of that. But my point with this is, this isn't something that hasn't been studied. This is something that's been extensively studied on an impactful basis on how it impacts Black people, right? Now, knowing that, why is Christy Noel and ICE agents making fake AI TikToks of Black children in order to spur support or popular support for their ICE programs, right? Because ICE has been so bad at their jobs, you know what I'm saying? And racially targeting people. It was literally judged in court that ICE agents can profile Spanish people just based on the fact of them looking brown, right? When they pull people over and they speak Spanish, they'll be incredibly more harsh to them and everything, right? ICE agents are incredibly racist. We know this. You know what I'm saying? But Christy Noel and the mega narrative here is using the adultification of Black children in order to push support or garnish popular sentiment for why we need ICE, right? And it's particularly concerning when you see where ICE is situated too, right? Donald Trump is in Chicago. What did ICE just do in Chicago, right? ICE just did a raid in Chicago where they tied up Black children in literal zip ties, right? In the middle of the night. They raided this complex in the middle of the night, no warning, right? And then when someone asked them why they're doing this to the kids, an ICE agent said those kids. You know what I'm saying? Choco Melon said, I remember that. The OG video was threatening whatever the names of the newest big scary gangs are. I've lost count, right? Right? But anyways, here it says, Noam accused of posting fake videos of black men threatening ICE agents. Right? Homeland Security Kristi Noem is facing questions after her department's official X account reposted a TikTok video of a group of black youths apparently threatening ICE agents that may not carry its original captions, right? And we could directly pair this to the rise of white nationalism with the MAGA movement. You know what I'm saying? Look at what app it's on, X. The fact that the Department of Homeland Security is allowed to spread misinformation on the white supremacist app X, right? This is just like when the depictions of racial caricatures were given to black children in the media or black women in the media, right? They said, FAFO, if you threaten or lay hands on our law enforcement officers, we will hunt you down and find you out really quick. We'll see you cowards soon, right? The department's own comment in its post declared, yeah, I already read that. However, social media users soon claimed to have tracked down the original version of the video and alleged its first upload with an entirely different caption in which the participants jokingly threatened Iran, not US federal enforcement agents, right? Right. And he even went on TikTok and posted an explanation about it. Let me find this TikTok video real quick.
Hey y'all, have y'all seen this? Kristi Noem and ICE have basically posted this video and took this verbiage on here, basically saying that these young black men are calling for a bounty on ISIS.
Someone said Kristi Noem is the dog killer lady, right? Yeah, she killed her dog. She shot her dog. They want to go so wild about Hassan and his dog. They hired somebody that does that stages fake public executions. This is the same woman. This is the same woman that shot her dog. Oh my God.
Problem is that
someone tell Curtis Siwa's beret wearing ass to get on that girl.
That's not what the video is about. This young man made this video about over a month or so ago. And in his video, it actually shows this, where they're talking about Iran. However, Homeland Security, ICE, DHS, Kristi Noem's team, took his video, must have scouring TikTok for videos, took his video, used AI to take off the words he had on it, and put these words on it to make it look as if these black young men are saying they have a bounty on ICE's head. And this is so dangerous because this young man is now receiving death threats. And it just perpetuates that mindset of that these young black men are out here and like the young black men are even thinking about ICE or even making bounties on ICE. The reality is most young black men aren't even paying attention to what ICE is doing. And it's evident in the way they comment and ask like, what's going on? If they're not in their city, they're not paying attention to what's going on. But this is to rage bait and to get us all worked up because the bottom line is they're mad that black people aren't reacting. So they keep trying these little things, going into the neighborhoods and you know.
Anyways, like I said, right? Very purposeful, cartoonishly evil way of stoking populist support, right? By depicting anti-blackness and othering it in a form of white identity, right? So we constantly have to fight perceptions of self that are led to be popular in the eyes of the public, whether it's in the era of apartheid, slavery, or the modern day, right? Shit. What changed, dog? What changed? However, this canvas of experience isn't really suitable when defining an actual person's experience in the West, right? After all, I related more to Piccolo than I did to that TikTok Kristi Noem posted. However, it's more important to remember that the justifications of these thoughts around marginalized people have a reason behind them. Right. And be it media, be it newspapers, be it TV, these public spectacles are normalized, right, as a tool to reaffirm racist and bigoted beliefs at large, right? Now, how does this relate to Sydney Sweeney and Zendaya? Because I said I was going to talk about Sydney Sweeney and Zendaya, right? Well, one of these actors are black, right? Both of them have achieved notable stardom, but one of them are black and speaks about that experience. Now, celebrity as we understand it comes from a contribution to an art movement. Euphoria may have been written by Sam Levinson and A24 Studios, but the reason why we remember the show was because of Rue's crash out. It was because of Jules' bike scene. It was because there was a Caucasian cosplaying Mac Miller, right? Rip to him, by the way. Rip to both of them. Oh my God. Both the Mac Millers. This performance brings value for the industry of Hollywood, and then Hollywood rewards its artists who help breathe these characters to life monetarily, right? That's the acting industry, right? However, a completely different experience according to race and gender appear when you zero in on the cultural juggernaut of Zendaya compared to somebody like Sydney Sweeney, right? There's a reason why Zendaya said in a press interview a little bit ago that she doesn't want to do interviews with Sydney Sweeney no more, right? But let's zoom in on Zendaya first to see how this performance of caricature takes a public eye. Someone said, my cat is stabbing me with her needle claws. I'm in pincushion. Oh my God. Yeah, she shoddy, but it wasn't following instructions. Right? But anyways, it says here, Zendaya Coleman, I don't face the same struggles as a woman with darker skin. It's no secret that Hollywood favors lighter skin or black femme entertainers, but some black actresses, while perhaps observing that fact, resist publicly acknowledging, right? Zendaya here says, I feel a responsibility to be a voice for the beautiful shades my people come in. Unfortunately, I have a bit of privilege compared to my darker sisters and brothers. Like, people question, would you listen to Zendaya if she wasn't the same skin color? And that's an honest question. Can I honestly say that I've had to face the same racism and struggles as a woman with darker skin? No, I cannot. I have not walked in her shoes and it is unfair of me to say, but I'm completely behind that woman. I want to be a part of the movement and growth. And if I get put in a position because the color of my skin where people will listen to me, then I should use privilege the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a really good way to talk about the aspect of your identity and how you fit into a popular connotation of relation, because that's what you are. You're a celebrity. You perform for the people. And it's amazing to see someone like Zendaya voice issues like this about the Hollywood industry. But we also had to realize people like Zendaya did tennis movies depicting people like Serena Williams, like darker skinned women, right? Light skin bias is still an issue, and lighter skinned people are casted over darker skinned people all the time. But Zendaya puts a voice to that. Again, the way I see it, obviously, is if a black girl is winning, whether she is light skinned, dark skinned, or any type of shade in between, that should be a win for the black community, period. But it's not necessarily always perceived as such. It's like, oh, she's so much on the lighter spectrum, that's why she wins, right? Anyways, she's talked about that a couple times. Thrice, I think. Another article here on Zendaya's 24th birthday, or revisiting an essay she wrote for us as a teen, right? Yes, you could easily be ignorant of yourself and say a rude comment that creates a back and forth negative experience, or you could teach that person about what they're saying, where she just like, yeah, she just talks about black identity and everything, you know what I'm saying? Now, how does this depiction work with white artists, you ask? I want to pull up an article over here that talks about the racial wage gap, right? Because Sydney Sweeney, in and of herself, like I said, black identity is kind of othered. Sydney Sweeney is the norm. You know what I'm saying? Sydney Sweeney doesn't really have to do much in order to step into the role she's placed in. She just has to be herself. Her being this blonde, blue-eyed woman fits the narrative of Mega really nicely, hence the jeans ad. And this article here surrounding the wage gap, saying, wake up Hollywood, the racial wage gap is real. It talks about black workers and everything. With suppressed voices in the writing rooms and a lack of representation in the media, dating back to a century of racism, black actors have combated unequal pay rates for as long as the film industry has existed. Today, people of color in the stage and film industry, even big-name actors such as Viola Davis, Angela Bassett, and Taraji P. Henson, are only paid 1/3 as much as white actors and technicians, right? Angela Bassett, guys. Angela Bassett. That's the girl that acted in the Black Panther, if you don't know who that is. That's the mother of T'Challa, if you all know who that is. Phenomenal actor. But she gets paid 1/3. Viola Davis, the girl from How I Got Away with Murder, that Netflix show. Amazing actor. 1/3. Imagine they look at you and say, you 1/3. You know, they used to look at us and say, we 1/3. You know what this reminded me of? But anyways, it's not due to a lack of job opportunities. There are hundreds of TV shows and movies being produced every single day. It's simply because white actors are paid more and given more opportunities, right? And this is what I'm talking about with the systemic inference of racism surrounding Hollywood. Remember how I said it was systemic? Because of the certain depictions Black people get placed in the media in terms of normality, it's way easier to, I guess, write a white character. And that's why you'll see way more white protagonists in media, right? Set up that way. You look across the books we read as kids, the Scholastic Book Fairs, Percy Jackson, white boy, Katniss, white girl, Divergent, the whole cast of white, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't a unnatural phenomenon. We've lived with this and we understand this our whole life. And we're talking about the narrative depiction of identity. Someone like Sydney Sweeney is getting roles like this because of a rise of mega narratives in an everyday sense, right? The same narrative that is bringing rise to AI racism with Black children is birthing Sydney Sweeney, I guess, or this new version of Sydney Sweeney. Someone said you got the spirit. It was more like 3/5. My fault. Was about to say. Anyways, now how does this depiction work with white artists, you may ask? Right? Because, see, artists like Sydney Sweeney exploit a social normality of emplacement, right? Zendaya talked about that normality of emplacement up and down, right? Being a light-skinned Black woman, right? But in Sydney Sweeney's case, when the system works for you, it's not hard to embody a visage of it. One of my favorite examples of kind of stepping into a role that has socially been white is kind of Taylor Swift in country. Like, I talked about it before, but I want to run it back so y'all really get me, because we're going into the territory of white feminism. Chat, we're going into the territory of white feminism. Someone said, wait, I read down the article. Chadwell only got $2 million for his role. Yup, Chadwell only got $2 million for his role, and Iron Man got $60 million. Oh my God, Jensen Flowers. Nice to see you too. But here it says feminism not for all, the discourse around white feminism and social media platforms, right? White feminists have been criticized by scholars as a lack of structural integrity of gender and race, and a practice of erasing the agency of women of color. Criticize the racism underlying white feminism that disregards the intersectional differences among women. It is relying on a white epistemology that makes white feminism problematic. Refers to gender-only feminism, where binary logics of gender become the dividing line as the root of white feminism, right? And then they talk about the Me Too movement. Scholars have raised concerns about the white women hijacking a hashtag started by a Black woman, and celebrity washing, co-opting of ideas and resistance of women of color, or the exclusion of violence against LGBTQ people, including trans women of color, and absence of discussions on disability in Me Too, right? When Me Too came to be used in a tweet by Alyssa Milano in 2017, it garnered much social media attention, but the original healing aspect envisaged by Tarina Burke was lost in the public outing of perpetrators, right? And basically, this article is talking about how when Black women voice their grievances, and how white women have to be more so the center of it. Whereas, like, the overarching problem of patriarchy is there, right? And there should be a place for that conversation to happen. The overarching conversation of patriarchy needs to happen. White women, if you hate men, I'm telling you to beat them. White woman, I need y'all to beat your man. If you with a white man, put your hand in his face right now. His fist in your face. If you're watching a video and you're a white woman and there's a white man next to you, his fist in your face, sis. That's the only way I'm calling you sis type shit. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, when we're talking about the overarching problems of feminism and co-option and white identity, sometimes white feminism can see itself take the place or become an overarching force of division when it comes to women's liberation as a whole, right? Whereas someone like Zendaya, will hop on and talk about the struggles of Black femininity and Black womanhood, and talk about the unique conversations placed with colorism. You know what I'm saying? Someone like Sydney Sweeney will hop on and adhere to a norm. And this is what I'm saying here with white feminism and the infantilization of Sydney Sweeney. Whereas like people like Serena Williams, darker skinned women, are more so masculinized. You know what I'm saying? Someone like Sydney Sweeney is given the benefit of a doubt a lot of the times, especially with her jean ad. Someone said, I just want to say something. Notice how Sydney Sweeney has double S as the initials.
I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream.
Wait, so in class, she had to sign with SS? Sydney Sweeney had to sign SS? But anyways, the crux of that conversation I want you to get is white feminism frames women as unified and universalized from a white, cisgender and middle class perspective, while disregarding intersectional and marginalized groups, right? White feminism is related to white fragility. It's the structure of innocence, right? It's the ways in which white identity is used to reflect from blame during a sense of discomfort. It's defense that essentially upholds a status quo that continues the current marginalization of Black women, Black men, Latino and Indigenous women and men, etc. Right? When you view the world through the eyes of a white feminist, matters like positionality may be put into relative perspective comparative to the men around you, but you might not get the reason why we need to protest against police brutality and and the aspect of fetishization met with Black men, or the aspect of adultification met with Black men and Christy Noam. You know what I'm saying? White feminism is kind of distinctly shared by middle class perspectives, right? These often look like comparative models to white men from middle class America who are doing super well because of a privileged identity of class, right? But all you're doing is moving the goalpost of liberation to a confined group that does go through marginalization, but much to the homogenization of your activism, right? White feminists commonly wouldn't see the troubles of things like differing hair products, because 4C hair has to be specifically taken care of, and when presented in the form of dreads or twist, can add an extra layer of scrutiny not accounted for with white feminism, right? Basically, this notion asserts a mainstream dominance as the feminism. This is in order to bolster and demean the work of continuous communal work, because the feminism shouldn't be the only signifier of identity from a white commonality, right? There's sort of something else. There's sort of something else with white history, a little bit of a oppression, you could say. Someone said, why couldn't you just name her Amelia or something? That's a name in the generic white woman section of names. I'm still not over that she signs her name in SS. She signs her name SS, guys, right? But anyways, so we're in a resurgence of white nationalism, right? We have people like Elon Musk parroting dangerous ideology about white replacement, and government agents like Christy Noel pushing backwards propaganda in order to legitimize these claims. The strength of their racialized depictions comes with a public conscience that accepts these actions as normal, right? And this brings me to Sydney Sweeney's jeans commercial. Now we're finally going to tackle Sydney Sweeney. And I'm so sorry, because y'all had to know that crux of the argument before I hopped into here. Someone said being judged by your hair that you were born with. Big bolt energy. No bolts in the chat. Oh my God. But this is Sydney Sweeney. It's funny how it's 50 minutes in and this is the first time you're seeing Sydney Sweeney in the video. But if you notice, white women, you know what I'm saying? Very beautiful white woman too. You know what I'm saying? And I loved her in her role as Cassie. And this shit sucks because Sydney Sweeney all of a sudden has done this like teeter thing, right? Where all of a sudden she's pandering to a bigoted demographic of white normality. You know what I'm saying? After Sydney Sweeney did this ad, Donald Trump shouted her out, and Sydney Sweeney was like, oh, I'm so shocked. I was so overwhelmed. And then the interviewer asked her if she wants to conversate about her depiction of self here. And then she said, I will speak about things that I find important or something, right? But anyway, someone said white woman jump scare. She looking a little Aryan. I'm not gonna lie, she looking Aryan as hell. She do look Aryan as hell here.
I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Or that they make your butt look amazing. Why would I need to do that? But if you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney has very keen.
Right? Sydney Sweeney has great genes. They're poking at it. They're poking at it. They're just playing in your face. Sydney Sweeney has great genes, right? And the fact that this commercial is done with the white woman, companies are obviously capitalizing off of the new wave of white nationalism Donald Trump is creating, and people like Kristi Noem is perpetuating an aspect of like black identity in the media, right? The aspect of the way black people are being depicted in the media currently, side by side with how this white woman is being portrayed in the media. You could see a distinction, right? You can see a distinction happening. And one of them is an infantilization, and one of them is an adultification. Someone said I might just be paranoid. Is it just me though? Or are they trying to make her come off like a teenager here? Right? But anyways, I got a video here because I was like, am I tripping?
Considered racist. Welcome back to another episode of Baddies with a Brain, and today we're going to be talking about the Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle new Great Jeans campaign. So if you weren't aware, actress Sydney Sweeney, who's most famous for her role as Cassie in Euphoria, just recently launched a new campaign with American Eagle, which talks about her having great genes. Now, if you're not media literate, you probably think that this is harmless. However, this perpetuates a long line of racism and eugenics that has been present in not just America, but all over the world. In the advert, Sydney Sweeney talks about how genes are passed down from parent to offspring, and she has great genes, while it pans across her body in a very sexual way and zooms into her blue eyes and her blonde hair. I'm sure.
Right? Saying I have great genes while she's sitting there staring at the camera. And then showing her body in a certain way, like everything about it is just caricature, right? Caricature to assert a narrative that this ad is trying to sneakily dog whistle in. You know what I'm saying? And what y'all have to understand about white supremacists, guys, is white supremacists at their core, like at their heart, like their ideology is just fragility, right? They're bitches. You know what I'm saying? So what they have to do is they have to hide around their dog whistles, right? They have to throw a jab at you and then hide. They have to throw a jab at you and then hide, right? It's like all those people that made the N-word jokes, and then just as they're about to say the N-word, they say like neighbor. When they're like neighbor, you know what I'm saying? Those people are bitches. They can't go all the way with none. You know what I'm saying? They scared. So instead they have to go through these dog whistles. But that's how narratives build power, right? Through an actual social degradation that we know is happening, but to an allusion to it. Someone said I learned about the history between jeans and racism. A still very popular brand of jeans back in the day stamped their jeans with white labor only. They were so racist that they advertised the fact that only white people work to make the jeans. And as usual, one of those pants sold for millions online. Whole bidding system. Holy hell. Damn.
We're all aware of the play on words. They're advertising denim jeans, but also playing on the fact that she has good genes, which is the genetic makeup that makes you who you are today and will decide if you're black, white, Asian, whatever. In the extremely conservative climate that we're in today, where the right wing and white nationalism and patriotism is rising, this advert is a dog whistle to racists out there that basically confirms that their way of thinking and way of life is correct. Instead of having lots of different actors from different backgrounds being in this advert.
But also on top of this, someone said something I feel like I have to highlight too that I forgot to highlight. This ad that Sydney Sweeney did was based on an ad Brooke Shields did when she was a tween. Right? She was a tween. Right? And basically what they're doing here too was the same depiction as Sydney Sweeney. They're depicting this tween in a sexual manner. In fact, well, she's a child, but the nature of white femininity is the media or the perceptual basis of infantilization and how they can do that on camera, right? And I need y'all to see this real quick.
The secret of life lies hidden in a genetic code.
This is the ad that the Sydney Sweeney kind of ad was based on. Listen to it.
The secret of life lies hidden in a genetic code.
The secret of life lies hidden in the genetic code. As she takes off her glasses and she has blue eyes. Okay, that's weird already. That's weird already. You know, we throw in a couple I had. That's weird already. That's a couple strikes already. But we gonna keep going.
Genes are fundamental in determining the characteristics of an individual and passing on these characteristics to succeeding generations. Occasionally, certain conditions produce.
Look at how sexual this is for a tween. Like, they had her doing that. You know what's really disturbing? I think what's more disturbing is how they had a tween doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, more than anything is how she's like not even old enough, or no, maybe I'm infantilizing her too, but it's just so weird. Like, the nature of putting a tween in like this and making her do all this. Like, who had this dream? It was not me. I'm not clicking no sound button on this one.
Structural change in the gene, which will bring about the process of evolution. This may occur in one or more of the following.
She's talking about the genetic code and evolution while she's turning around and putting on these genes and everything. You know what I'm saying? In these lewd positions.
Ways. Firstly, by selective mating, in which a single gene type proves superior in transmitting its genes to future generations. Secondly, by gene drift, in which certain genes may fade away while other genes.
They had a tween talking about being inseminated in a gene ad. And then they got Sydney Sweeney and then they said, you know what? This is a really good idea. Let's mimic it again. How did they do this?
And finally, by natural selection, which filters out those genes better equipped than others to endure in the environment. This may result in the origin of an entirely new species, which brings us to Calvin's and the survival of the fittest.
And even the survival of the fittest, it's that same white supremacist, like, narrative eugenist talking point. You know what I'm saying? Like, believing white identity is this thing that needs to be preserved. You know, white identity doesn't even genetically exist in a makeup sense. Like, people, there's more genetic diversity in the north side of Africa parallel to the south side of Africa than there is a white person and a black person in America. They've done tests. They've ran things. Like, there's so much genetic diversity in and of ourselves, right? But we're all human. We're human. Like, black is a racial construct created in a narrative of spectacle throughout the years, right? That narrative of adultification was created in newspapers. It was created in the Jim Crow South, and it arose out of a social climate that demeaned black people. You know what I'm saying? So of course these ideations of black identity would pop up. That same social climate centered white people as a norm, right? White people as a norm of settler colonial ideology and society, right? That's why you'll have conspiracy theorists like this feeding into those ideologies, because this is white nationalism at its worst, right? And as a D1 rage baiter, guys, this gotta be rage bait. Like, I get it. Like, I crack bad jokes at times for fun. Like, I love rage baiting. One time, at my friend's grad, the principal brought out the stick of McEwen and all the white people stood up and started like chanting. So me, a reasonable black human, like, I turned to my white friend and I said that they dick riding, right? Interrupted the whole show. We were laughing that hard, right? But we can't deny when someone's playing in our face, guys. The Aryans are coalescing, and it's been a year for the bland skin bears, to say the least. Donald Trump has definitely galvanized the most Botox-induced voices I've seen, okay? Where did he find Christy Knowles? Is this normal in Texas? Y'all be shooting dogs and reenacting assassinations in Texas, or am I tripping, right? I only trust an Atlanta analysis on this, by the way. Someone from Atlanta has to tell me why. Someone from Atlanta has to tell me why. Someone from Atlanta has to tell me why. A queer NB bottom from Atlanta has to tell me why. Right? But anyways, white nationalism is on the rise. We know this. I've seen festivals of Christian mega worship in my city, right? We saw all the funerals for Charlie Clerk spread across the globe. I've seen police been giving payroll raises while almost 2,000 people in this city still sleep without homes, right? On a snowy day, right? Guys, I live in Canada and white nationalism is on the rise, right? For the past year, I think I've seen more caucasity than I've ever seen. right? But mega narratives rely on complacency. And in that complacency, the women that they use solidify a long-standing American ideation of femme identity, right? That's sociology for saying the white identity is being reasserted right now, or even championed for a reason, right? MAGA, or I guess white nationalism as a whole, hasn't uniquely found its roots in America. Like I said, we're in an era where the globalization of identity is happening as a whole, right? And in apps like X, that globalization is seeing itself in stereotypes. We're in an era where these hate groups are actively coalescing around AI depictions of Black people and building power for ICE. You know what I'm saying? So remember that even though I'm prone to using my Caucasian punching bags, Sydney Sweeney's depiction of identity is a symptom of a larger ill. Like I said before, when you have a runny nose, it means you got a cold, right? Now, a lot of TikTok people seem to agree with me too. I want to circle back and finish that last video that we were watching because I sort of went on a rant and I didn't really let her finish.
Showing that all genes are good genes, they specifically chose a blonde hair, blue-eyed, white actress whose family is MAGA, by the way, and she voted for Trump, advertising that she has great genes. So what puts her genes above other people's? The answer to that would be eugenics. If you're not aware, eugenics is a pseudoscience. It has been largely discredited for the damage that it has done. It essentially believes that you can improve the genetic makeup of the human population. However, when this theory was at its most popular, which was in the late 19th and early 20th century, eugenics was twisted and used to essentially say that the white Aryan race is the best, and in order for the human population to continue, it should only be these people with blonde hair, blue eyes that should be procreating in order to improve the race. Eugenics has been used all over the world, especially by the British Empire, by the Germans, to justify the Holocaust and to justify the subjugation of Africans during colonialization and the subjugations of Indians in the British Raj. So for a heritage brand like American Eagle to get up here and have an advert with a white actress saying how her genes are so good compared to everybody else's is racist. Mind you, there had to be multiple meetings that happened before this advert can come to the public, and all these people sat in an office around a table and thought, yeah, this is a good idea. Really crazy to me how Sydney continues to cheapen.
I want to stress that too. A bunch of people really did sit around a table and say like, yes, this is a good idea, right? But Sydney Sweeney has also did this interview, and it's definitely what I want to cover the most in the video, because that's where she's getting a lot of today's backlash. Right? And I found a good article of it here. It said Sydney Sweeney breaks silence on controversial American Eagle ad and Donald Trump's support in new video. Sydney Sweeney broke her silence surrounding her controversial American Eagles jeans ad and President Trump's support. During a cover story with GQ, the Euphoria actress was asked if she was surprised by the mixed reaction to the denim campaign, which was accused of being Nazi propaganda. I did a jean ad, she said matter-of-factly. I mean, the reaction definitely was a surprise, but it was, I love the jeans. That's a really weird reaction, right? That's a really weird reaction. Now I got the video over here, and we're gonna go through it and we're gonna play it.
Got it.
But you're a 13-year-old girl. Like, what does fighting give you at that time in your life?
The element of surprise.
Ooh.
You gotta see the great boots, great shoes too, Kat.
I know.
Thanks.
You really, we pulled through in the shoe game.
Strong shoe game.
I usually show up in my PJs. For whatever reason, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just actually get dressed. And then many days, we would.
Like, you've got headgear on.
Yes.
You've got a mouth guard in.
Yes.
And you are grinning as you punch people.
Mm-hmm.
And you look completely unself-conscious and completely joyful. First of all, was it as much fun as it looked?
Yeah, the first thing I'm looking at this, the first thing I'm noticing when we look at this video is just how lack of drip, like just the lack of drip. You know what I'm saying? Like the white mega normality really just takes all the drip off a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like where like she, you know, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it. They're going to start hating on me and they're going to start to say I'm mean. But why do you show up with your hair looking like that? Oh my God.
I have a dream.
Girl, look like a small bird can fit in there. Someone said, yeah, she scares me. Oh my God, would that look? She giving that Caroline mother look. She giving that Caroline mother look. She giving that the button eye look. Oh my God. She was, oh basic ass fit, no drip ass fit, grade 2 kindergarten intro ass fit. Oh my god. I know some niggas in homeroom that was styling better than that when I was in grade 4. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my god. This looks like what they would put on one of the mannequins in H&M. But you know, like the ones that like are really near the front, right? They start with the most bland shit. This is just her. She just put that shit on. You know what I'm saying? Oh my god.
It was so much fun. I was over the moon. I felt like I finally...
Well, moving on now to Sydney Sweeney, who's
I'm gonna skip to this so we can just get to the part. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to, I don't really feel like listening to all that because that thing is like 13 minutes long. So we're just going to listen to this thing. We're going to listen to this.
A backlash recently from the jealous and insane for doing a jeans ad.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining hair color, eye color, and even... Oh my god. Someone said, bro, not Sky News. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. But y'all gotta remember that Australia is in a rise of fascism too, and I'm pretty sure that this is a right-wing pundit for Australia. But we can do our own hating. We can do our own hating.
My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Critics, mostly people who are aesthetically challenged themselves.
Critics, mostly people who are aesthetically challenged themselves. This guy looks like the white version of the Pillsbury Doughboy, bro. Like this guy, oh my god. This guy looks like what Charlie Kirk thinks he looked like. You know what I'm saying? Like this guy looks like if you got a marshmallow, you just put it around the carpet for a little bit and then you bleach dyed it. You know what I'm saying? Like this guy just looks like he looked like Humpty Dumpty humanized before the fall. You know what I'm saying? Like he looked like, don't let me get on him. Don't let me get on him. We ought to keep playing this video.
Thought that was an act of white supremacy, but the media ate it up. They ran story after story accusing Sweeney of racism, and it was one of the more absurd pylons that I've ever seen. Well, this week GQ sat down with Sweeney and watched the way the journalist squirms while trying to paint the actress as a racist.
The criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like
the way that the interviewer is trying though, that's the one person I won't roast, because that interviewer is literally like looking her in the eye and it's like, okay, I'm gonna feed this answer to you. Like I'm gonna walk you through this. I'm gonna baby you. I'm gonna infantilize you more than these mega men are. And then Sydney Sweeney's just sitting there with the blue eyes, like, you know, Sydney Sweeney's just there like with her eyes, blue eyes staring into this woman's soul, and this woman just she's being so patient. She's like, oh, I gotta talk to SS today, big SS. Big SS. And look at how immediately she catch an attitude. You know she been asked this question 9 million times. She holding back the hardest N-word of her life.
That was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
Right? She doesn't even, she gives no about the aspect of narrative representation she's emplaced in under the aspect of mega identity, right? If she has an issue she wants to talk about, she'll talk about it. That's what she's saying straight up. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But Sydney Sweeney, I think we have an issue. Cause you know what I'm gonna do?
Sydney Sweeney, I think we have an issue, Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney, I think we have an issue, Sydney Sweeney. Sydney? Sydney Sweeney says she has an issue with the genes. There's an issue with the genes. We got a white woman acting like a fiend. We got an SS officer like a fiend. We got an SS officer like a fiend. I'm about to hop on this track and mean. I liked Rue more than you. You acting like you 15. Why you mimicking pedophilia from that girl? She was 15. She was 15. You mimicking a pedophilic act. That girl was 15. I don't give a demise. I hate Sydney Sweeney the same way I hate Dubai. I'm fucking on two guys. I hate her blue eyes. Okay, we done. Anyways, it was a fun stream. Thank y'all so much for hopping in this chat with me, talking with me, having fun with me. Y'all know to support what you can do. You can subscribe. You can follow the Twitch. You could join the Discord. You know what I'm saying? Oh, 5 gifted members. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for gifted. Oh my god. I didn't even know you could gift people on here. What the hell? Mystica received a gifted in ride jammed man.